higher rate, including the mother of my next guest, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Ellison's mother, Cleta, died March 26th from complications of COVID-19, the illness produced by the coronavirus. She was 82. And Keith Ellison, Attorney General of Minnesota, joins me now. And first, I want to start by issuing my condolences and the condolences of our entire team to you for the loss of your mom. I know that it is a very hard to recover from loss, and so I'm really sorry to hear that happened. If you could just talk a little bit about the Of course. If you could just talk a little bit about the experience that your family went through, I want to give you that opportunity.
Well, my heart goes out to everyone who has lost a loved one during this pandemic because, it's just difficult to honor them and show them the public demonstration of love and honor that you want to do because the funerals have to be very limited. Only a few people, 2, 3, could be at the actual interment of my mother's casket. And it's just strange. You can't hug people. You can't hug your loved ones. You can't lean on their shoulder and cry with them the way that we would ordinarily do for our loved ones. And so, me and my brothers and my kids and their kids we've lost the very pillar of our family. And my heart goes out to everyone. And I guess I can say, and my brothers can say, and my son can say that we know from firsthand experience how absolutely serious coronavirus is, that it is absolutely serious, that if you are not observing social distancing, you're putting your loved ones at risk. No matter how strong and healthy you think you are, you could be an asymptomatic carrier. And so it is essential that we all observe the proper protocols, physical distancing, quarantine. It's life or death. And so when the president defies that, it's deeply disturbing to me.
Yeah. Your son, Jeremiah, wrote a really moving piece in the New York Times talking about the loss of his grandmother, but also talking about the disparities, the historic disparities that go all the way back. You can go back to enslavement. You can go back to redlining. You can go back to communities of color, Black folks in particular, having to live in the last choice communities in a lot of these these places, whether it's in Minneapolis or whether it's in Detroit, and, white folks being able to escape to the suburbs when the first Black family moves in, and Black people being left in a situation where they're more vulnerable by default, less health care, jobs that are hourly, jobs where you're closer to people, stuck working near to each other. When you hear Donald Trump talking in this sort of faux Confederate language about these lockdown orders, which are meant to save lives, and you see people with these Insta protests paid for by activists for the super rich, egging on this kind of activity that could get violent, what does that say to you?
It says to me that the president is willing to risk the lives of people who believe in him so that he can have advantages like re-election and things like that. He's literally willing to sacrifice the lives of Americans for personal gain. And that's deeply disturbing to me. It's not new. I mean, how many people who fought on the Confederate side own massive plantations? Not that many. They bought themselves out of having to fight for their slaveocracy, and they let poor whites die for them. And so, it's not a new story, right? But it's disturbing. It's sad. And I pray for those people, because even though I disagree absolutely with these protests, and I think that they're completely and entirely inappropriate, I know that they and their loved ones will pay an awful price.
Yeah, earlier, Ali Velshi was talking about some of the people who are paying for this, the sort of Stephen Moore crowd that are all about the super rich. I think these folks that are out there, I don't know what got them to turn out, but they need to understand that none of these people who are paying for these protests care about them getting sick or not. They care about the economy and their wealth. They care about their stock. They care about themselves. So I guess these folks, whatever they want to believe, I guess they believe. You are in the midst of a fight right now in your state, trying to fight to prevent renters from suffering and being evicted in this crisis. Can you tell us about that fight and how that is going?
Yes, the governor, Tim Walz, very wisely issued a prohibition on eviction. The attorney general, that's me, is charged with enforcing this. And it's very simple. How can you shelter in place with no shelter? You know, you can't stay at home if you have no home. So we've got to keep people in the homes that they're in to maintain safety for them and for the entire community. And yet we've seen some landlords shut off the people's water, shut off people's utilities, do other sort of annoying things to try to push people out of their home at a critical moment when they need a home more than ever. Now, I will say that many landlords have been great. You know, I want to commend all the ones who have done the right thing. But for the few who have not, we have enforced the law against them. We will continue to do so. We are going to investigate. We're going to make sure there's due process. But if we come to the conclusion that you are trying to de facto evict people because the courts will not allow you to, then we are going to take civil action against you, and you may have to deal with other consequences as well. It's heartless, it's wrong, it's illegal, and we're not going to put up with it.
And we know that there's a presidential race coming up, and you can't ignore it. It's still coming. What would you say to Joe Biden, who, you know, falls on the other side of the line from Donald Trump, who I guess he's going the old Confederacy, Jefferson Davis route?
Right.
You were on the Bernie Sanders sort of spectrum, in the spectrum of the Democratic and independent Democratic leaning side. What should Joe Biden rethink, in your view, if you think he should rethink anything about what he wants to do vis-a-vis the economy, vis-a-vis health care, should he become president?
Well, I believe that Joe Biden's ears are open and he's listening. But look, this pandemic reveals the ripped social fabric of our society. It reveals the fact that if you don't have health care and you don't have health care for all, many more people are at risk. It shows that if we don't have broadband for everybody, it's very difficult to work remotely, to do distance learning. You have communities that are simply isolated because they don't have proper internet access. I mean, the fact that we have a housing crisis for low-income people shows that if you're homeless and you're very close to the edge, you're out. The low wages mean people don't have any savings to fall back on in a crisis like this. And so the fact that we have had 40 years of flat wages and disinvestment in government means that people are more vulnerable than ever. I think that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden are talking, and I'm happy that the conversation's ongoing. And I really need somebody who's just going to address the inequality that is right now being exposed more than ever in this next election. I need somebody who's going to say, what can we do to promote prosperity for working people all over again? And that's what I'm focused on. And so I think if Joe Biden is up for that conversation, I'm up for that conversation, too.
Yeah, indeed. It's one would hope a president would be talking about liberating people from poverty and want and from disease and fear. That would be nice. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, again, condolences to you from our team. And thank you so much for being here this morning.
From my whole family, thank you. Thank you very much.